Step right up and join the most vibrant circus community in the world, circustalk.com. This is In Center Ring. I'm your host, Jonathan Lee Iverson, the dazzling showgirl turned history-making ringmaster, the proud alumna of the storied Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, guides us through her spectacular journey from aspiring dancer in her native Philadelphia to centering. We welcome the legendary Vanessa Thomas. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the legendary Vanessa Thomas. If you don't know her yet, you will know her, and you should know her. From showgirl to ringmaster, the one and only Vanessa Thomas. Okay, so you know good and well, I'm a fan. I adore you. And when I discovered you through other associations in our wonderful Sawdust family, it's like, wow. I mean, for me, it was like, oh my goodness, there are more.
There's more.
Because you know we everywhere. And
one of my favorite pictures that I absolutely adore is I think it was the Time magazine came, and I just happened to be there.
Right.
So there's this picture of you and your son, and you put it on his hat, and I'm like in the background, like this angel kind of hovering over, fixing costumes, and I love it.
They didn't know the difference. They didn't know any. They didn't know. They had no idea. It was so perfect that you were there. I was like, no, you have to be in this shot because those who know will know.
And I said, you know what? It represents to me my life in the circus, that there was always someone when you least expected it, or who you thought would not be in your corner, was always off your shoulder here, giving you some encouragement, telling you to go for it. You can do it. Yeah, you can go for it. Because we really didn't have a whole lot of living legends in front of us, except for maybe Junior that I could identify, The
great Junior Ruffin. This is why it's so important, especially on the series Circus Voices, to illuminate such stories for just the annals of circus lore, for just history, period. We're seeing another evolution, obviously, in circus. And one of the things we definitely want to be sure of, I think, is that we don't lose sight of our roots, And I think there is something there's an interesting thing going on within the circus industry where some newer participants in this great art might not have a reverence for the traditionalists, so to speak, or those who've come before them. I was hanging out with some of my contemporaries the other day. Now I'm in that age range, right? And we were having a conversation, and they said, "Yeah, some of these kids are calling us trads, because everybody speaks in abbreviations and they don't say full words." Right? I said, "Trads? What's that? We're traditionalists now." I said, "Are you serious?" So we have this interest. Yeah, we have this fascinating, schism. Which is, I'm like, I'm not for that. I don't think you can really evolve or even understand your craft, or even begin to understand this, especially circus, because circus is more than a performing art. It's a society.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to understand all of it, and or as much as you can, but you definitely should not be dismissive of yesteryear. And in the same breath, we can't resist those who are pushing
another path,
our craft forward.
I want to tell you, you might know this, but I'm on the board of Circadium here in Philadelphia, and Circadium is like a certificate program of 3 years where there's an audition process. can to like a École de Montréal, like the circus school there, and the the person who started it, Shana Kennedy, she toured for a few years with her husband, Greg Kennedy, who's a juggler, and they were on a Cirque du Soleil show. So she got to see a lot of the circus schools, the education process, the coaching more intense than we had anything like that in the States. So when they came back to the States, she already had a circus school in Philly, and then she, started really wanting to do this accreditation program to get it linked to the educational system, the Pennsylvania educational system, so that when the circus children, I don't know what to call them because they're like my grandkids, but when they come in, they actually have 3 years of training, of learning different other skills, really focusing on what their major skill set might be, and then the help that they need with learning to look at a contract, read a contract, have dance classes, have someone coaching them that has worked in that discipline, maybe creating an act for themselves with a musician to come in and look and help with, actually scripting a whole process. And so that's very near and dear to my heart. But sometimes I go, they have every couple of months, they have something called a test flight. And that's where the students can come in, but not just our students, anybody can come in and kind of try it out. It's almost like an open mic night. Okay. And so sometimes I go, wow, that was great. And then the next person will come in and went, what, I don't understand that at all. What were they doing? And you're going to try and take that to a trad
right.
circus, I'm not sure if that's going to work. So at least once in the cycle, I go in and I just talk, about being traveling with a circus and what that entails, and what it's like to be in the circus business, the things that you may or may not understand, i.e., like you said, Jonathan, it was our own little community, not even so little. After a while it was large, but we had meet the person of your life there, and you get married and you have children, and then there's christenings and there's weddings, and unfortunately sometimes there's the passing of some of our artistry, and you have to deal with all of those things in a small little microcosm that everybody's dealing with all their lives. But somehow folks don't think that happens at the circus, because I guess it's so magical. So they're like, we had a baby shower, and they go to me, you had a baby shower? Well, yeah, folks in the circus have babies. And, I tried to explain to them. Yes, lots of kids. I tried to explain to them that when, I was on Circus Vargas, we had the Little Sisters of Jesus that traveled with us, and they had a truck and a trailer, and Father Jerry, he was a Roman Catholic priest, but he was our priest, and we had church service, and
late great Father Jerry.
When I was on Universal, I would go when we arrived, I would go find the pastor, the preacher, didn't have whatever denomination, to see if they would come on Sunday morning before the first show and do a church service with the circus performers. And the reason that happened was my mom started traveling with me because I had Jonathan.
Oh.
And I needed a nanny. And so she said, well, I always wanted to know what you did at the circus, so I would go with you. But, after I think the first month or so, physically being with us all the time and seeing the backstage, and that it really was, a dangerous craft. She said, as my mom, y'all need Jesus. And she said, and when y'all get to a new town, y'all need to find some spiritual intervention. I was like, what's she talking about? So literally, I started doing that, and it was great.
I want to back up to that wonderful organization that you're on the board of. Now, the name of it again is
Circadium.
Circadium. Now is it based in Pennsylvania?
It's based in Philadelphia.
Wow. Okay. This is wonderful and exciting to know because I never heard of it. This is wonderful. Yeah. So, I mean, it's really preparing the next generation of circus artists, and you sit on the board. I mean, how lucky are they? You know, I mean, to have somebody.
I'm lucky too. But
of course.
You know, I just, one of the things that, you know, was kind of a downfall, but an uptick for all of us to be able to use that word that everybody uses now, to pivot, because our first class was due to graduate in the spring of 2020. So we had students that had been there 3 years prior. That was their third year. We had a show that was set up to be at the Kimmel Center. We had invited all different types of producing organizations and or producers that may look at the students in the show and would think about hiring them. And so we had folks from the cruise ship industry. We had folks from different circuses. We also had people from industrial shows, you know, just kind of a random entertainment conglomerate or whatever. So we had those invitations. That was already in the plan. And then COVID hit and it just wiped everything out. And we really wanted, our mindset was to have the presentation at a venue that people would recognize. So at the Kimmel Center, that's our version of Lincoln Center and or the Kennedy Center. So that made it legit immediately.
Right. This is a non-for-profit, yes?
And it's a nonprofit, yes. And so one of the things, you know, that really has had to be turned around is that we had a vision for that. We had a vision for them, and that they were going to graduate. Now they were going to graduate, but without the hoopla, without for us the ability to really present them
and celebrate it. Right.
And celebrate it,
right?
And you know, receive their certificate and all of that. So we did all of that, but it was, you know, it was a bit of a letdown for all of us.
But it was also a great lesson, right? When you say, I mean, because that is circus life, and they got a taste of it in real time, because we know no circus day is the same. Now, how would a student you know, I'm a kid, I'm flipping around in my neighborhood, and I may have caught a circus, and I think, you know, I don't know if that's for me, but I hear of this place, Circadium. How does one get affiliated with you? How do they apply? What do they do?
There is a process. Well, they first of all go on circadium.com, and I'll spell it CIRCADIUM. Once they're on there, they can navigate. You'll see where it says where, if you're interested, you can contact, and it would be Shana Kennedy. That process up front with our auditioning staff that would let you know when the next audition cycle is. Of course, we used to have auditions in person, but we don't have that anymore. So they are submitting their vitae of what they are doing or wanting to do. And it can be, you know, regular quality, doesn't have to be professional. They don't have to be in costume. They don't, you know, but traditionally, they're usually students who have been training probably high school, junior high school. So it becomes that point where they're like, okay, I want to study circus more. And their family supports them in that.
That's wonderful.
And I'll say that because, you know, just walking, I know I did. I don't know about you, but when I walked up and told my family that I
You
was
told me the
leaving
story.
Philadelphia to go to the circus, my mom was like, "Oh, okay, maybe you should do that." And then, I know you need a break in college and all of that. And my father was like, "Hell no." What? And I know the story that the audition I took initially because I missed the showgirl audition.
Right. It was for, they wanted to make you a clown.
Was the clown college audition. Right. If I had come home and told my father that I was going to clown college, that he would have laughed. He would have
arrested you. He was a cop.
Yes, he would have. He would have arrested me. Cuffs and everything, and squad car.
You get her out of here and lock her up for 30 days.
Lock her up till she gets her mind right. She needs, my mother said, she needs some spiritual intervention.
Yeah, she needs Jesus. It's not like you weren't doing something with your life. You were on a path to really making it in the dance world. Philadelphia is major stuff in Philadelphia.
It's major company.
It's major company. It's it's analogous to the Harlem Dance Theater in New York or Alvin Ailey. So these are major companies led by major legendary artists who pour out their gifts to their charges, and you were ensconced in that. And
I was.
Yeah, and you went to Temple University too. So you were serious.
If I'm around my friends and I'm talking, just with them, then they know. But sometimes there's another friend of theirs that doesn't know. And they always lead into and this is my friend Vanessa, I've never talked to you about her, but she's the first person, it was in a circus and they go like this. No, she wasn't. And they go, no. And then they look at me. And so I finally got some of my pictures in a folder on my phone that I go, okay, here goes the slideshow again, because they're like, what? Huh? Ooh, what? Yeah, what? Why are you under an elephant? I said, because that was my day job. I had a marvelous life. I tell everybody, I started dancing at age 4. And I had no idea what was coming behind, but my first recital was on the stage at the Academy of Music.
Wow.
So at 5 years old, I had my presence there. And I went, I really like this. So I kept dancing. And then that's when I, graduated from high school, went to Temple, had all my auditions planned for going to New York City. And I think you know that story. My dad was like, "You're not going to New York." And at that point, I never recognized that I was 16 years old, wanting to go to New York City by myself to college. The 16-year-old part didn't really figure in.
You're like, I have a goal.
I wanted to dance. And that's where all the dancing was happening. And I had been to New York and taken classes and all that. No. I was going there. My father said, and no, you're not. You can go to Temple, or your third choice is you go to Temple. How about you go to Temple? So that's when I had my first modern dance classes. I'd never had anything like that. I fell in love with Dunham technique and Horton technique and Graham technique,
That's some wonderful stuff.
And then I auditioned for Philadelphia while I was at Temple, and I got in, which was absolutely amazing. And I, eat, sleep, drink, get up, eat, sleep, drink, dance again, get up, eat, sleep, drink, dance. That was it. I was consumed.
Wow.
And then one of my mentors, Joan Myers Brown, who's the founder and the artistic director of Philadelphia, she is Philadelphia, always has said about her life that, she didn't find dance found her. And I am truly blessed to have that happen so far twice in my life with dance and then with the circus, because the circus found me. I wasn't going out.
Say it again. Say it again.
The circus found me.
That just kills that myth. I tell people all the time, nobody runs away and joins the circus. It's like that Matrix movie. It comes in and finds you. You're like, what?
I know. It's like, huh? And then, and my process of that was like, I'm joining the Ringling show. I'm going to travel because I know they're going to the West Coast. I would like to see the Pacific Ocean. Somehow I thought it was going to look different than the Atlantic Ocean, and it does.
Right.
But I went, that was, and touring and all of that. And that's what I wanted to do. And fully expecting to, as my mom said, you'll do that. You'll get that out of your system. Then you'll come back, and then you'll go back to grad school and you'll do your whatever you're working on, dance therapy or whatever you think you're going to do.
I love it. So, I mean, because your resume reads wonderfully. So you start off with the greatest show on earth, Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey. There's Circus Vargas. There's Toby Tyler Circus. There's Big Apple Circus. And in all of that, I want people to be clear. Now, you're not just, this dancer who just whittled over and became a little showgirl. One of the things about the great show women of the circus is that they are highly agile. They're not just dancing. They're not just cutting a rug there wonderfully, but you have to be full out athletes. You're riding these animals, the elephants mainly. You're doing the Spanish web. So you're taking all of these dynamic skills you've gleaned from dancing your whole life. Tell us about that. Like, how do you transition into really being a full out circus showgirl where, okay, you start off with one thing, but we all know in circus, you end up wearing many hats.
When I got to Ringling, and they said, you're going to have to learn the Spanish web. And I said, what's that? And they said, well, you're going to dance first, but then you're going to climb 30 feet. What? Okay. So then you're going to climb 30 feet. And then once you get up there, you're going to put your arms and your legs, and you're going to learn this routine and stuff like that. And I said, okay. And they said, but you're going to do it in pieces. You're going to learn the routine, close to the floor by a mat. And then you're going to just take time to let me climb up, climb down, climb up and down. Okay. And they said, and your teacher's going to be Antoinette Kinsella. I said, okay. I didn't know who Miss Kinsella was. I had no idea her background, her circus history. I'm in the neophyte, showgirl just appearing there. But my middle name is Antoinette. My mother's name is Vanessa, and no one in my family calls me Vanessa. No one, neighbors, godparents, all of that. They all call me either Antoinette or Tony, which is the nickname. So my whole family calls me Tony. And then I meet this woman whose name is Antoinette, and I go, I don't know, but I'm going to trust Miss Cello Antoinette, because there's this kindred thing that's happening that she doesn't even know about. She don't know. I'm just new. I'm just one of the newbies. She got to teach this, that I fill her in, and And I actually got hired because someone had left, so I was being inserted, and it wasn't a group of us. It was just me. So she
you came in. So you didn't come in to a brand new show. You came in as a replacement. So how long was it after your audition in Philadelphia then you ended up
was I on the show?
Yeah.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Well, it was actually one week. 1 week or 2 weeks. I have to think. Because what happened was the audition that I had was Thursday. And they and Ringling called on Saturday morning and said, we had someone just leave and we would like you to join the show. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. as a showgirl. That's wonderful. And we would like you to go get on the train tomorrow if you want to. And you can get on the train and ride with us to Oklahoma or somewhere. And I was like, tomorrow? They were like, well, that's an option. I said, well, do I have a little bit of time to think about it? And they said, yeah, you can get back to us at the end of the day. Okay. Because if I was going, I had to be at the train yard to leave after, the Sunday show. And so all of that, talking with my mother and my father and going to my grandmother's grave and praying with her about what am I doing and did I really want to go? And so all that was, and then going to tell Joe Myers-Brown that I was not going to be at Philadelphia, but we had a show in New York, and that was our big thing. Again, just to get to New York and do a show. We were close, Philly, but it was just the trail. And so I had to teach someone my parts. So I stayed at Danko for a week, and I taught someone my parts, and I flew out to the next place after Oklahoma. I think was Tucson. But
Okay.
I have a schedule. But anyway, that was all crunched up like that. So then when I got there, I had Mrs. Kinsella, Miss Antoinette Kinsella, to myself.
Mhm.
I had no idea who she was. I mean, she's, circus queen, of the air. And I was like, later on, being on Ringling and then starting to study your history, I was like, oh my gosh, I had Mrs. Antoinette Kinsella was my teacher. And so, that connection there was priceless. And it's because I didn't know, but I felt like in hindsight, God knew because he entrusted her with me and, me with her and her with me. And, after that, I loved being able to do the web. It was a little bit difficult because in ballet, your feet are turned down, and on the web, your feet have to be turned in so you can hold on with your feet. They have to go across the rope. So that's why they teach you with a close to the ground with a mat underneath you, because you go be switching a trick and bloop, because your ballet intuition will come into play. And my feet were turned out like that. She had to keep telling me to, turn it around.
Wow.
And, and look me in the eye and go, that's for safety. It's for safety, all the other stuff, when you're in the arabesque and everything, your foot can be pointed and all of that. But when you're climbing and you have to go up and descend and switch doing tricks, you got to put your feet in. So that was being a showgirl. And then I was there, and then Cliff Vargas saw me and invited me to come and be a Vargette. And I didn't know anything about that either. I mean, I was just getting my heels and my feet into the sawdust on Ringling, and
Right.
someone else saw me and said, "Come on over here." And then that's when I went over there. Then that's when, who knows what would have happened on Ringling, but I didn't stay there long enough, because you're only as good as your next job.
That's right. That's right.
So I went to Vargas, and I was there for 4 years. And here comes, you riding elephants. Would you like to do a dog act? I was like, I don't know. They're like, well, we have two rings of dogs. No, one ring of dogs, and we want to expand it for 3 rings of dogs. And if you want to learn, we have somebody that'll teach you, and then you can have a ring of dogs. Okay. Well, then that came with taking care of dogs. Like, you got kids and stuff now. So now I got 10 dogs. I have to get up and feed, and somebody goes shopping for their food and all that, but I got to go up and walk them and all of that, groom them. And I was like, what did I say yes to this for? You ever been in a magic act? Okay, you never been in a magic act, so you're going to get in the box they put in there, and Dale Longmire is going to be your presenter. And so Dale and I knew Dale from Ringling. So now I'm doing a magic act where I get in the box and I get knives put in me and stuff like that. And you come back and go, ta-da. I did stuff on Vargas for 4 years that never had crossed my mind that I would ever be doing. So I had this resume of all of that. And then I left Vargas and I came home and I had a little bit of a break. And then I went to Big Apple and I got hired there in concessions.
Interesting.
Because Paul Binder didn't know me from a can of paint. So I'm selling snow cones, I'm selling programs, I'm selling, and I tell you, it's the divine intervention. Jimmy and Tisha were married. They were pregnant. Tisha was doing an aerial act, and the person that was supposed to cover her from the company said, she didn't even say she couldn't do it. She was just afraid. She said, I'm afraid to do it. So Tisha marches me in to Paul and says, Vanessa's here and she can cover me. And Paul's like, the snow cone girl. Because that's all he ever saw. He saw me selling snow cones and probably didn't even know what my name was, right? I'm at Lincoln Center selling stuff. So anyhow, the snow cone girl would say, yeah. So my first intro into Big Apple Circus was covering Tisha. And she wore a blue costume and she flew as like a butterfly by her neck in this one piece. And I covered her for that. And I would be leaving concessions and running to get changed and put my costume on. But the funniest thing sometimes, Jonathan, was that I was so behind schedule that I couldn't get my gloves on, but my hands were blue from the snow cone juice. The audience could tell I didn't have gloves on because my hands was blue, the same color of the costume.
I can imagine somebody's looking at you going up to, not just buy a snow cone from her.
And I had that happen once. Because then I got in the show and we had a show that was called Arabian Nights and I was belly dancing on an elephant at the beginning. And then I did the spin up to the top and spin down and landed on anime. And we did this little piece there. And that was the opening. Okay. So that was more of my intro, getting into Big Apple Circus and doing company stuff. And then it was, try this. Vanessa, have you ever walked stilts? Nope. Would you like to learn how to walk stilts? Oh, okay, I'll try that. Have you ever done marionette work? Nope. Well, we're doing this marionette thing where you have to do the marionette and you have to walk stilts. You want to learn how to do marionettes? Sure. Okay, we got a can number and then we got a this and double Dutch. I know you jump double Dutch, but we have this idea for the clowns and you to do double Dutch with the Sesame Sweat show. And can you teach them how to jump double Dutch? And, but I need you to hula hoop in the double Dutch while you're doing that. Okay, let me try that. So I did that. Then I did a hula hoop piece in the show. Then I learned how to throw knives with John Lepiar's.
Wow.
And we auditioned that and they were like, I don't think our liability insurance will let us do that. So John and I started doing Renaissance fairs together on our off time from Big Apple Circus. So I was throwing knives at John in Sarasota for Renaissance fairs. I'm like, so I was doing pretty much what they asked me to do. A lot of times I was the only African-American performer.
And this is with every show you were in, basically, right?
Yeah.
So from Ringling to Toby Tyler to Vargas to Big Apple, it's you were just really the only one most of the time.
Right. And everybody, and if there were other people of color, they were Hispanic,
right,
or Hispanic families. And a couple of times, like at Big Apple, we had a group of guys that were Moroccan, and some other, shows. that I was not on, but after the fact, they were Ethiopian, they were from Sierra Leone, they were from Guyanese, and so they were from the continent. They were
Right.
indeed African, but I just know, there were times when I would be interviewed, and they, asked me where I was from, and I'd say West Philly, and they would, the interviewer would laugh and say, "No, for real, where are you from?" I was like, "I'm from West Philly,"
I don't think people always respect how lonely it can be, because that's a common thing for Black people, just in a workspace or any space, really. It's like to always be the only one. I remember when I was on a show, one of the main things I would do whenever they happen to hire a Black person is, thanks to my position, I use that, and I would kind of bring that person under my wing quickly, because everybody needs a community. Everybody, and it's always amazing to me, right? I mean, and I know you've experienced this. Every Black person knows this story. You could have 40 Chinese sitting, doing their business, whatever. Nobody says anything. You have 12 Russians over there just knocking them back at a barbecue. Nobody says anything. You got 3 Black people who probably don't even know each other, happen to walk in the same vicinity, and everybody's wondering.
Yeah.
That's an interesting mystery, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's, not that there's a how do I say it? It's not a prevalence in the circus. It's just life, and it's life skills, and how you choose to live it. Because this is how I came into the world. I came into the family that I came into. There's some stuff you can change, but there's other stuff that you can't. And I'm always grateful that I can process it, that I came into the world to be special. And that I am special.
Special you are.
And to all of my, other circus brethren that are of color, and also not of color, that we were brought onto this world to be special.
You have to indulge me, because you know what I'm going to ask you about. Is your history making turn as the first female and first African-American ringmaster of Big Apple Circus? Like, how does that just happen? Now, here it is again. Here's this journey. You had it all worked out. You're supposed to be this world-class dancer. You're working it out. You trip up, end up venturing into the circus, which was supposed to be about a year, right? It was going to be a year.
It was a year.
Yeah, you were going to take that break. Your mother said, "Oh, she just needs a break. She's been working hard. Let her get it out of the system." Yeah, I'm going to do this for a year. But sawdust gets in your veins, and we know what happens. So you do that, and before you know it, you're in the midst of a full-blown career.
I was in shock that Paul asked me to announce the show.
But how did that just happen? Like, I mean, what, he just came up to you and just out of nowhere just was like...
Well, apparently conversation was in the background of Big Apple Circus kind of expanding its territory. And the face of Big Apple Circus was Paul. And if we were trying to go into a new location, a new state, that it would behoove Big Apple Circus to be able to send Paul as advance, to be able to talk to the community, the board and all. My understanding was the board and all had been talking about this for a while. And not that Paul was going to take off from being the ringmaster, but that he was going to need that time. And sometimes it was going to be daytime shows, the kids' matinees, and it would be in advance, but sometimes it would occur when we were in those cities that he might have to go to a city council meeting, or he might have to have a speaking engagement and all, and he couldn't be two places at once. So who were we going to ask to do that? Be his, step into his shoes for I didn't know how long. It became that it was that season, but I got to do some shows. I did some shows at Lincoln Center, and that was like goosebumps. That was all of the things that I couldn't have ever imagined that I would do in my life as a performer. Right. And when I walked out into the ring at Lincoln Center to invite the audience to enjoy the show, I don't know. It was more charming than anything else that I could have imagined in my life that far. I never knew that I was going to be asked, but that I had the option of saying yes or no, but always at Big Apple, I had all those opportunities, and I would say, okay, I'll try it. From Mrs. Consello, Miss Antoinette Consello, I'll try that. I'll try that. So all the way up to being a ringmaster. And I kept saying, I know this, to me, it was a big deal for me, for my journey to be in that ring. But after I did it, that's when the processing was, because then history, I started looking and I went, am I the only one? I can't be the only one. Am I the only one? So far, am I the only one? I know I'm announcing. I'm not singing. I'm not dancing. I'm not, on Broadway and stuff, but am I that person? And I am.
Every time I look, follow you on social media, and I see you having a blast with your wonderful sorority sister.
Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, founded in 1908. We are celebrating our 114th anniversary.
That is so wonderful.
This year. And I ended up becoming a member when I was an undergraduate at Temple University.
Okay.
And I will be celebrating March the 1st, my 47th anniversary of being part of the organization. So it's a big milestone when you get to be 50 years. There's a milestone at 25, but 50 is a large one.
That's
you
amazing.
Become golden. You get the all.
See, I wanted to touch on that. I wanted to bring that up on purpose because, I'm big on relationships. I'm big on how, it just makes the world go round. And you've really experienced that in a very full way. I mean, there's circus. That's its own fraternity in and of itself, where you're a part of a family that is broad reaching, multicultural, multi-generational, and it's constantly spreading its legacy. And you're also a part of this great organization, sorority that you're in, I can imagine when you're at Circadium, is that one of the major things you all emphasize to the students? Hey, get your relationships in order.
Yes.
There's something about community.
I was going to say, I had the privilege, to just add a little bit. I had the privilege of attending an all-girls academic high school, public high school in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia High School for Girls. And there's a plethora of women that came from the Philadelphia High School for Girls. So I say that was imprinted on me, and I didn't know it at the time, but those communities, that you find yourself in those relationships that, that you are within those whether you're acknowledging it or not, they come back to you, and or they never leave you, and they're good for you. So that whole kind of transitioning and being a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority incorporated, really played into my life in the circus, because when I was traveling on like a Toby Tyler show, where we were moving almost daily, either every other day, and if we were somewhere for 3 days, that was like a vacation. We were able to find somewhere, do your laundry, get your hair done, just things that make you feel, in quotation, normal, things that everybody has to do. But if I had on a shirt, my AKA shirt, or it didn't even have to be, say, AKA, it would be pink and green. If I was in the supermarket shopping, I would have a sorority sister, a soror. I'm in some town. I don't know anybody. I'm just there performing with Toby Tyler. It happened on Vargas as well. Somebody would come up to me and go, "Are you an AKA?" And I would say, "Yes, I am." And they said, "Well, where, what's your chapter and where are you from and stuff?" And then that person became my best friend the entire time I was there. So to be able to have somebody that I didn't even have to introduce myself to, except that I was Vanessa and I was an AKA, and they were going to show me where to do my laundry. It was amazing. And so I have those stories. So thank you to all of the AKs that I met, during my travels, probably too numerous to mention, because they wouldn't have recognized me in the show because my costumes weren't that color and it wasn't presented as such. They recognized me as a regular person out shopping, that because we were in that sisterhood together, they were gonna help me. They were gonna aid me if I needed it.
Do you feel like you are indeed a trailblazer? Like, I mean, of course, that wasn't your intention going in. You were just going to go and have an experience. But obviously, you were conscientious enough to open your eyes. You can see, okay, where you're the only one. And I can imagine at some point, some little girl out there, some little boy out there, or some adult out there who looked like you happened to come to one of those circuses, whether it was Ringling Brothers, whether it was Circus Vargas, whether it was Big Apple, to actually see you, whether you were in your showgirl mode or on the web or doing your magic act or being the ringmaster of Big Apple, and how that resonated for them. Did you ever have those encounters during your career?
Yeah.
To just let you know, my goodness, we see you.
I will tell you, one of the most endearing interactions that I had was maybe a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, when I was on Ringling, and then after that went right to Vargas, and Vargas was playing in California. So I spent a lot of time in California. There was a woman who came to visit, and her daughter was Rain Pryor, Richard Pryor's daughter. They had a child together, and they would come and visit the show. The mom was a comedian, had been doing some, also comedic work as a clown, and she was an actress, and she had been doing, bit parts, but she found a lot of comfort, and found it very comfortable to come visit Vargas and bring her daughter, who was just wonderful, a little precocious, girl. And so fast forward to 40 years, within 40 years, I see that Rain is going to be performing in Philly. So I buy a ticket and I go see her. And afterwards, she said to me, "I don't think you know how much of an impression you had on me at Vargas." And I said, "Well, I don't know what you're talking about." She said, "I would tell my mom that we would go to the show, and I just saw myself in you. Jonathan, I had no idea. No idea. And maybe because that was something that I wasn't doing because I had to. It was just me. It was just me doing what I love to do, and that was giving the circus as much of my life at that time. And that she said that to me, to your point. That's when, what, 10 years ago now, maybe less than that I first went, oh my goodness, maybe there are others that
Oh, she's not an anomaly. She's
touched
not
in
an
the same
anomaly.
way
Yeah.
that they saw me and went, I'm gonna try that. Or maybe I'm gonna, maybe it wasn't the circus. Maybe it was some other type of positioning that they wanted, and they didn't think that they were going to be able to do it because they looked a different way, or they sounded a different way, or they were too short, or they were too tall, or they were all of those things. And I also think of younger people, like it's our responsibility to reach out to them. Sometimes you can't not ever necessarily wait for them to reach out to you. And that's why I'm again so proud to be part of Circadium. When I'm there, they go, I want to ask you about such and such. Or is that, I try and make sure I take the time to do that. Or, or there's always one time that's set up, and I do a really small presentation, and I let them ask me any question that they want to ask me about my life in the circus. And on top of that, I'm always amazed when somebody says to me, that's Black, that's African American. When they say to me, I never knew anybody Black in the circus. Oh, now I know you. It's that reaction, that there are the people that are my age or even older, when their friends introduce me, that's the first thing they said. I didn't know anybody else. I never knew anybody in the circus, let alone a Black person. And then that's what their friends, who are my friends, they said. I said the same thing, girl. When I met her and she said she was in the circus, I was like, no, you're not. I don't know nobody Black in the circus.
Well, considering the depth and breadth of your magnificent career, and now that you're really ensconced in giving back at Circadium, what does circus mean to you, and what do you envision for the future of circus?
Oh, well, I think, of course, there's the legacy and longevity of the circus. I really truly believe that it's going to continue. There are a lot of families that are totally invested in being in the circus, producing circus in a traditional sense, under a big top. Circus Vargas is that now. Omnium.
That's right. Omnium Circus. Yeah.
Omnium Circus, which my understanding is the mission is for circus for all people, that in the sense that there are some that are traditional, and then there are others that may or may not be.
Yeah, multi-abled artists.
Multi-abled, yeah. Yes. So that you're working on that. So that's, I think that's all a big plus, because we have to recognize everyone. One of the other programs that I'm involved with, or have been involved with, is a group called Seesaw. It's CSAW. And
I know them. They're wonderful.
Very happy to also be a part of them, and to be able to contribute these days for grant money to enable circus performers that are either just learning, or some that have been performing for a while that may be struggling a little bit, especially during COVID, as well as artistry of color. And so to be able to be an active participant in that, I think we are finally starting to walk the walk that we talk.
You are.
Thank you.
You are a circus treasure. You're an American treasure. You're an icon. You know, I even brought my special hat for you. You know, I don't wear it for everybody.
Oh,
but I wear it for you. This was made for me by the one and only Gina Cristiani. She's a wonderful, wonderful artist in her own right. And of course, one of the top designers we have in our business, but she made this hat and I have to wear it in honor of you. You know, I'm a fan. You know, I love you.
Yes.
You are Vanessa Thomas, from showgirl to ringmaster and everything in between.
Yes.
I'm so honored that you came to be with little old me.
Thank you.
The Circus Voices 2022 spring season is a co-production between Circus Talk and In Center Ring. Join Circus Talk today and find the talent or the job you've been looking for on the circus industry's international casting marketplace. We have a special offer for Circus Voices listeners. Receive 15% off your annual membership by using the code Circus Voices 2022. The circus is a vast international community, and there's only one place to connect for jobs, events, the latest news, and so much more. CircusTalk.com. Join today.